Hello there, YouTube. This is the Handsome Crayon back again with another fanfiction reading. So, without further ado, let's begin. This is Graphs by Mozzarella, Chapter 3. Geez, this is awkward. Quote, Awesome is an issue of dash over rainbow. If you don't dash, it doesn't rainbow. End quote. Dash awoke to the sound of rustling downstairs. Her eyes fell over the dark room, searching for any possible reason to be awake, and a blunt object to strike it with. In an unaware stupor of half asleep, she stumbled out of bed and rushed a brush through her hair once, right before shaking it back to its original unkept look. She braced herself for the unforgiving first light of day and opened her curtains. Nothing. Luna's moon still hung defiantly in the sky, as if to say, "'Tis still night time. Art thou infuriated?" Dash mumbled curses under her breath and made to get back into bed until the rustling grew louder. She drifted through her doorway and to the stairs where she surveyed the rest of the house. One of her storage boxes had been opened, and its contents were strewn about the floor. In a dim light and through vaguely closed eyes, she couldn't quite make out what they were. Sprouting from the boxes were Pony's back legs. Blitz muttered something, giggling under his breath, and emerged from the box with something in his hooves. Officially perplexed, Dash flicked on the lights in her living room and descended down the stairs, yawning. Blitz, it's late. What are you doing up? His head shot back to hers and nodded enthusiastically in greeting. I had a dream. Uh-huh, she said, rubbing sleep from her eyes. About what? I had a dream. I was flying, racing, yeah. Then these other Pegasus came out from behind me, wearing blue suits. Yeah, blue suits. I was wondering, who were they? Blitz sounded a tad hysterical and nodded his head with each statement. Dash shifted her gaze to the open box and stood over and recognized a familiar stamp on the side. She chuckled and shook her head, approaching her clone. You remember them? All of them, Blitz confirmed, as he wavered. He must have grown tired in his recollection-induced high. You're a fan of them, I'm guessing. You could say that. Dash looked back at her childhood. She had been quite young when she learned of the Wonderbolts. That had somewhat defined her goals in life up to the present day. And now, all that fandom had been force-fed into the poor colt in one sitting. She put her hoof on his shoulder to support herself and pushed the Wonderbolt plushie out of his hooves. Come on, you can look through all that stuff in the morning. Yeah, he responded and shook himself out of his fan trance. Just one thing. I checked your mail too. Don't ask why. I don't know. Was that a lampshade? No? Okay. He moved to the table and took out a paper in his mouth. Who is this? The paper showed a white unicorn with purple glasses grinning widely. Dash pointed at the message below. It read, Attention aspiring flyers of Equestria. Please join us Saturday night at the Clouds Museum of Miss Vinyl Scratch Team Laser Light Showdown. Equestria's most talented Pegasus ponies will dazzle you with their weather magic. Participants will compete in the greatest light show ever to win the title of Most Awesome Young Flyer. Let's face it, the last competition was a joke. It was in the daytime. I mean, come on. Who wants to party in the daytime? Don't even get me started on the music. Join me and the lovely Miss Octavia for a show that will rock this boring land to its core. Also, our special guests, Soren and Spitfire and Soren of the Wonderbolts will be putting on a show of their own. I know, right? Anyway, applicants can be picked up at 584 Sternum Street, Canterlot, Equestria. Sign-ups are meant for teams of 2. Don't miss your chance to wow the crowd. It then proceeded into a warning about epilepsy. Dash found herself shaking with the same excitement her clone found himself afflicted with a few minutes ago. The Wonderbolts will be there? Oh my gosh! She managed to choke out a response. Sounds fun. Blitz placed the flyer back to the table. I know. We could totally win. Dash froze. Win? You mean compete? Yeah. Dash stammered. She must have been lacking the adrenaline her counterpart had acquired over the night. But it's in just 4 days. 3, Blitz corrected. It's past midnight. Anyway, we could do this. You already won that other competition. I remember that one too. And you saw what we did in the sky earlier. You weren't even trying to put on a show then. The part that was having second thoughts was politely clubbed over the head by confident Dash. They never found the body. You're right. We can do this, confident Dash. However, was still tired. Except maybe we can do it in the morning? Blitz responded with a yawn. Yeah, sure. Sorry for waking you and all. Good night again. He started to climb back onto his couch, but Dash grabbed him and started to drag him through the air up the stairs. Oh no, you're coming with me. I can't have you waking up rummaging through my stuff again. I've got to keep an eye on you. Her words carried facetious that was poorly disguised as something ostrich. Blitz flapped his wings to take up his own weight and moved to her side. I couldn't help it. Whatever. Just try and get some rest. Apparently we have a long few days ahead of us. They arrived in Dash's room. She flicked off the lights in the living room as the house went dark again. She took up her spot on the bed, replacing the blankets. She appeared to be comfortable and asleep instantly. Blitz, however, took the other side of the bed, suddenly aware again of just who he was joined in it. He left plenty of room between them and faced away from her to hide his nervous face. Sure enough, Dash had been doing the same. They muttered a simultaneous good night as they both tried their best to fall asleep. The warmth was getting away. Light shined through the open curtains of Dash's bedroom, and a low-quality rock and roll song blared through Dash's ears. She fought to remain at least somewhat asleep. Against the static, her alarm clock was bleeding out. This was a routine of hers whenever she slipped at home. The relative warmth of the bed tried to keep her in while her ears begged her to turn off the damned alarm. Today, the warmth was winning. Now, cloud blankets were made of water vapor. They were light, fluffy, and the most comfortable material known to ponies. I hear Griffin down is better, but you'd have to find a Griffin willing to let you shave it. However, it should come to no surprise that they can make a pony a bit damp after a while. And damp meant cold. Today, it wasn't cold. Today, Dash had the warm. But the warm was getting away. Dash had kept her legs draped weakly around the warm since she had become aware that morning. It was quite a treat to not wake up shivering, but as it moved away, Dash couldn't help but feel the cold sneaking up on her back. She was having none of that. No! She chirped stubbornly as she tightened her hold on the warmth and pulled it back to her. It complied without much of a resistance and turned to face her, then wrapped itself around her, engulfing her and sending the cold back down to a little box in the corner. Dash nearly purred. She nuzzled the warmth as a reward. It felt fuzzy. Of course it felt fuzzy. Warmth was always fuzzy. That's simple logic. The radio proceeded into a commercial. It began to politely offer medication to ponies suffering from depression. How any pony could be depressed in Ponyville, I'll never know. That was probably an unsuccessful business, given the location. Dash had to draw the line there. She turned her back to the warmth, which continued to hold her tightly, and flailed out a foreleg towards the most annoying alarm clock radio in Equestria. Her hoof met the plushness of her cloud mattress. She continued to flop her hoof around on the cloud 3 more times before realizing her mattress was not her radio. Her eyes flickered open as she saw her night table was quite a ways away from her hoof. Stupid alarm, she mumbled as she as she turned to ask the warmth to let go of her so she could silence the repetitive voice repeating, "Horn on, apply directly to the horn." A wall of blue obscured her vision, sky blue, the color of her coat. She followed the wall to the head of Rainbow Blitz, who was still smiling in blissful sleep. "Holy buck, guys! Blitz is the warmth!" "Holy buck! Blitz is the warm!" is what Dash's mind said. However, muffled through Blitz's neck, all that came out of her mouth was, "Mm-hmm-hmm-hmm." The colt stirred and opened his eyes. He blinked at the Pegasus, staring wide-eyed back at him for a moment, and then he noticed she was on his forelegs. His mouth went dry, which, when coupled with the morning thirst, was quite uncomfortable. He double-checked that they were, in fact, his extremities, and that it was, in fact, Rainbow Dash in them. Both were true. However, Blitz didn't quite know how to react. It didn't help that part of his mind was busy commenting on his situation. "Do I like her?" My mental flank. "Don't like her, my mental flank. You get choked up from seeing her." "Shut up, self. How do I deal with this?" "I think you're doing just fine. You got her in bed, didn't you? Isn't she cute when she stares at you like that?" "Dude, this is really awkward. She's freaking out." "And so are you. But you have to help me see from that thick skull of yours. Try talking. You seem like a stallion that can run his mouth." "You're an ass," thought Blitz to himself. Ugh. Blitz soon saw it fit to say something. He croaked a "good morning" and started to shuffle out of the bed. Dash did the same and finally shut off the radio in the middle of some political talk show. Eventually the mayor would be elected for another term. Unfortunately, no annoying radio meant no sound at all, breaking up another awkward silence for the Rainbow household. After making the decision to ignore how she woke up, Dash walked slowly out the door into the hallway. "Well, I'm gonna go take a shower. You can go downstairs and get some breakfast. There should be something down there. Maybe. I don't really know. Make sure the food's not actually mold before you eat it." "Will do," he replied and parted ways with her in the hall. Blitz made his way to Dash's kitchen, avoiding some of the cluster he had made the previous night in the living room. Through the arches he found small and quite messy excuse for a kitchen. A counter of smoothed-out cloud stretched across the wall, with cabinets scattered below it. One piece protruded out a meter into the middle of the room, with chairs on each side. On it laid piles of papers and wrappings of unknown oranges. Where the counter ends, there was a tall gray cloud embedded in the wall. A fridge. A quick look through it yielded some milk that was probably not bad. Next, Blitz decided to try a little memory. She's gotta have some knowledge of where stuff is. Maybe if I focus. He tried to visualize a bowl and a box of cereal. Perhaps he hoped that correct cabinet would light up for him. Instead, he succeeded in listening intently to the sound of running water upstairs. Suddenly, the bowl of cereal became a steam-filled shower. He envisioned water falling uneventfully off some pony's multicolored mane while she whipped it through the air. Droplets of water splashed onto his face. Soap bubbles ran down her flank. She turned to him and winked. Why don't you join her?" Blitz felt his wings twitch. He could not even dignify the voice in his head with a response, because that would be weird. He went about searching for stubbornness without any more deep thought. Back upstairs, Dash was wrapping up her shower while trying to map out the next few days. "We're going to have to get a routine down for the show. Will Chief let us have our personal days after what happened yesterday?" She stepped through the curtains and proceeded to shake her head at an unhealthy speed. Risk of whiplash aside, it was a good way to shake the water from your mane. The water splattered on the walls and mirrors, leaving her mane dry and just the right amount of uppity. "What happened this morning? How did we end up cuddling again?" A rush of cold, high-altitude air from the hallway hit her as soon as she opened the door. She had only dried her mane. She was shivering down the stairs. I bet you wouldn't mind warming. I bet he wouldn't mind warming you up, said her cheeky inner monologue. Dash closed her eyes and imagined herself being pressed against a wall, her breath becoming heavy, something brushing past her ears, then her cheek, and then it separated for a moment, breathing hot air onto her neck. It lingered there, right there, before latching onto her skin. She let out a gasp and shook her head again. She found it hard to twist her face into something appalled, with shivering of all different kinds. She returned to the bathroom to shake the rest of her hair dry. After doing away with distractions, Dash made her way to the kitchen. She found Blitz sitting at the counter with a bowl of Cheerios with cherry-shaped marshmallows. He greeted her and held out a box. Want some? He asked through a full mouth. A bowl and a spoon were set out opposed to him. Sure. She snatched the box and took a seat, and started to pour the oat rings into her bowl. As they ate, Dash fished through the piles of paper on the counter and produced a calendar. Blitz peered over, tilting his head to read with her. Looks like we've got partly cloudy through Monday. Cool. We can just set them up today, and then we'll be a clear schedule to set the show up, right? Mm-hmm. Anyway, that shower's all yours when you're done. Then we can get to work. Blitz tilted his bowl towards his mouth and gulped the rest of its content. Alright, I'll be back in a bit. He then flew off to the bath for the first time in his life. Fluttershy hovered low in her cottage, struggling with a large bag of birdseed in her forelegs. She made her way to each box hanging off the wall and ceiling, methodically pouring each of the feathery little friends their recommended portions in their bowls. As anyone with hooves would think, a heavy bag of seeds is difficult to control midair, especially if you're not a strong flyer. Upon filling her third bowl, the yellow Pegasus hooves slipped and the bag tumbled on the floor with a small puddle of seeds forming around its opening. Oh, she said after a weary sigh. Sorry, guys. It'll just be a moment. She then left the room. The remaining unfed birds had lived with Fluttershy long enough to learn manners and to appreciate what she did for them. They had no trouble returning to doing bird stuff while their caretaker retrieved the dustpan. She returned and lifted the bag up to the rest of the table. Sometimes I wish I had a little help with all of this. She scooped up some of the fallen seeds and poured them carefully onto the bag. She then felt a tug on her tail. The Pegasus turned to see her old friend Angel staring at attention with a carrot held at his side like a rifle. He wore a green helmet that must have belonged to a toy soldier at one point. Despite his attitude, Angel too appreciated Fluttershy's work, and he wasn't about to put up with another Iron Will fiasco either. With a salute, the bunny proceeded to attack the task that had caused his friend trouble. He pushed up against the bag and managed to get one side of it a hair's width off the ground. Angel was about as strong as one would expect a little white rabbit to be. A yellow hoof managed to grab him before he gave himself a hernia. Thank you, Angel, but it's too heavy for you. I was thinking maybe another pony. Someone a bit like me. Maybe. She trailed off into thought. Angel took a look of disapproval and released it on to Fluttershy. He had heard the story the previous night and had taken Twilight's side. Fluttershy, he said with his paws and twitched his whiskers. I know you're thinking of finding or making some pony that will make you happy, but you can't just go cloning yourself just because Rainbow Dash seems to be doing well so far. The mare bowed her head. Angel's argument must have been working. I'm sure you'll find some pony, but this just isn't how to go about it. Can you imagine if every pony just cloned themselves to have a relationship? Biodiversity would plummet, population would shoot up, things would just go wrong. An animal expert like you should know things like this. Now, I don't want you pressuring Twilight, okay? It sounds like she's against it, and she probably knows best when it comes to things of this type. I know, said Fluttershy with uncanny recognition of the white rabbit's words. I know you want to help, but the bag's just too big for you. Now go finish your breakfast so you can grow up big and strong. Angel gave his forehead a consecutive smack and shook his head. Sometimes being a rabbit just sucked. Nevertheless, he wagged his whiskers at her a little more. Would do no good at his charade skills. Were probably not good enough to get this particular message across. I need some coffee, he thought as he hopped towards the kitchen. Meanwhile, Fluttershy finished her cleanup and managed to feed the rest of the birds without incident. She started to gather supplies for another bout of caretaking when she heard a rapping on her college door. She opened it a crack and found Rainbow Dash with Tank hovering above her. Good morning, Rainbow Dash, she said, letting them in. Good morning, Dash replied. Tank flew up to Fluttershy, who gave an affectionate nuzzle. Hello, Tank. We've missed you around here. Is Rainbow treating you okay? As a response, he came to landing on Dash's hooves and retracted his propeller. Dash patted his shell. Yeah, we're doing fine. I've actually got some plans to get this guy some wings and an engine. He'll be the fastest tortoise alive. Fluttershy tried to smile, but her motherly instincts were telling her that this plan would go wrong in every way possible. She managed a nervous giggle and hoped her friend was joking. Anyway, I was wondering if you could keep an eye on him for a few days. Blitz and I are going to the mountains to train. Fluttershy jumped at the chance to take Tank away from the well-meaning bad influence that was his owner. She swept him up into the air and hugged his shell. Of course I'll watch him. I'll get his bed set up. Did he have breakfast? I can have Angel make you a nice salad. She continued her observant swooning over the tortoise for a moment before remembering Dash was standing in the room. Oh, what are you and Blitz training for? Dash told her about the competition and their schedule for the next 3 days. Wow, that sounds fun. So you guys are going around the mountains to practice? Over the course of Dash's stories, Tank had made it about halfway across the room. Yeah, we need somewhere secluded to practice without any ponies seeing us before the show. Dash took about 4 steps over to her pet and rubbed his head. Isn't that right, Tank? That sounds nice. You two alone in the Canterlot Valley with the birds chirping and the clouds drifting by with gentle winds. She trailed off with her eyes glazed over. I guess it could be like that. Ah, crap. I guess it could be like that. We're gonna be working, though. Fluttershy may or may not have heard that. How is Blitz? Did you find room for him? I know you can only have one bedroom. Yeah, he's fine. He just slept on the couch. Dash rubbed her neck. Then in the bed right next to me, I could smell him. He was soft. She had said that out loud. Her voice might have cracked more than it already did on a regular basis. Fluttershy saw something in her mind. It looked sickly. Are you... Anyway, she interrupted well above her inside voice. I should get going. Take care of Tank. She made her way for the door. Fluttershy followed her halfway out. Don't you want me to tell the others? Dash was already high above the surrounding canopy. Nah, she called back. We got it covered. Blitz regretted having it covered. It should have been simple. Just go to 4 ponies he already knew, sort of, and then tell them about the show. Nothing big at all. He visited the Earth pony first. Applejack's house was the easiest to find from his memories, along with Dash's. He expected as much. What he didn't expect was being cast off with a lifetime supply of apple-based food. We can find this stuff. We can find stuff there, he told them as he stuffed back packages in... crap. We can find stuff there, he told them as he stuffed packages into one end of his saddlebag. Granny Smith responded with a snort. Nonsense! You're thin as a branch. You need some vitals to get some meat on them bones when you're out there. I can't let one of my granddaughter's friends go around looking all sickly. Applejack chuckled. She was less enthusiastic about the Pegasus' need for victuals, but she managed not to contradict her Granny Smith from an early age. Besides, Sugar Cube, ain't you and Dash gonna be working up an appetite out there? She winked. Blitz eyed her suspiciously. I guess we're gonna be flying a lot, and recognition flash. Crap. I guess we're gonna be flying a lot, and recognition flashed on his face right before a blush. Applejack got a nice chuckle from that. I told you we're not like that. I didn't say nothing, Blitz. Blah. I didn't say nothing, Blitzy. Blitz let out a growl, which was more funnier than it was scary. Well, now, go on. Well, go on now. You got a few more stops, right? He turned and stormed out of the room, mumbling something about stupid, suggestive mares. Applejack watched him from the door with a grin. As he took off, however, longing showed in her eyes. With a sigh, she shut the door and went off to another day's work in the field. Blitz's visit to Sugar Cube's corner yielded as much food as his last, with a distinct lack of innuendos. Blitz introduced himself to the Cakes, who were surprised to find that he already knew them. Blitz made a mental note and tried to separate Dash's experience from his own. With eventually stuffed saddlebags and a bone-crushing goodbye hug from Pinky, he was off to see the unicorns. Carousel Boutique seemed to be a far cry from destroyed on the outside. There was a single broken window on the second floor, and a stone-gray Pegasus repair pony appeared to be taking measures to replace it. Blitz landed heavily on the front door, which appeared to serve as a knock. Before he could bring his hoof to the door, Rarity bursted out onto her front yard. What was that? Did something break? I'll be having a word with your manager. If anything on my shop is out of place... She looked frantically around her walls before noticing nothing had changed but a colt staring with a cocked eyebrow at her front door. The repair pony glanced at her, grunted, and went back to his work. That was me, Blitz coughed. Rarity's eyes narrowed for a moment. Then she reverted right back to her cheery and excessively proper self. So it was. Come in, Blitz. Twilight and I were just talking about you. She trotted back inside. That can't be good, he thought. That can't be good at all. He followed her in. They walked through the thoroughly organized display of clothing on idealistic mannequins. Most were dressed of all shapes and styles, with a few suits scattered around the room. Rarity saw him observing the clothing and smiled. They're marvelous, aren't they? The ponies in this town simply don't know what they're taking for granted. Rarity's smile became fierce for a moment. Blitz fell another step behind her. And don't think I've forgotten about your clothes, or lack thereof. I've already got a few designs laid out that would be perfect for a stallion such as you. I'm sure of it. Blitz's face became a faint grimace. Oh, I don't know. I don't want you to go to any trouble. I wouldn't be able to pay you. Pay? Dear, what nonsense. It's no trouble at all. Anyways, I've been needing some publicity lately. With stallions like yourself showing my garments off, it will pay for itself. They reached the staircase and stared upwards. Twilight, make yourself decent, please. We have a guest. A somewhat strained voice came from above them. Rarity spent most of our time naked anyway. Why would I care if some pony saw me like this? Rarity giggled. Oh, Twilight, I wasn't aware you were so comfortable with dressing in front of stallions. They reached the top, and Blitz stopped. I can wait here if you want. I actually just need to tell you two. Is that Rainbow Blitz? Came Twilight's voice from the doorway. Bring him up here. I need to examine him. Blitz did not feel entirely comfortable with the supposedly scantily clad mare examining him. Well, that mare anyway. However, he found himself being magically nudged up to the last few steps by Rarity. Sorry, lost my place. Found magically nudged up to the last few steps by Rarity. Really, I don't. Really, I don't even have to come in. Dash and I are just going to be at an air show, and I was supposed to tell you that we'll be away training in the mountains near Canterlot for a few days. Rarity whisked back to him. One day. One day together, and you're already off on a romantic getaway. My, you work fast. You work as fast as you fly. He looked quite dignified, blushing and frowning, with his eyes squeezing shut while the telekinesis dragged him across the floor. He heard Twilight sigh. Relax, Blitz. It's just a saddle. Just a saddle. Wizards not normally use the word jest when trying to convey another what that they are proper clothing, but the obstreperant author disagrees. Opening his eyes, revealing a room of his birth. It looked exactly the same, aside from the lack of a few boxes on the ground. Twilight stood on the step before an array of mirrors in a white saddle. It was a few sizes too tight, and was probably putting some unnecessary strain on the unicorn's ribcage. Rarity must have been one of those suffer to beauty kind of ponies. She hopped down from her perch over to the others. She levitated quill and paper over to the purple saddlebag on the table and started to circle Brit slowly. Your hair seems to grow the same way as Rainbow Dash's. Oh well, I guess we can't call it that. Your hair seems to grow the same way as Rainbow's. Oh well, I guess we can't call it that anymore. The same way as Dash's. Really? Blitz muttered sarcastically. I hadn't noticed. It's not like I'm her clone or anything. Twilight ignored that remark and scribbled notes on a page. She came around behind him and looked at his tail. She frowned and sighed. Why is your tail all zigzag like that? Dash's isn't. Blitz sighed. I don't know. I was literally born yesterday. Probably in one of those boxes over there, actually. Maybe you have some kind of special oil that causes stiffness in certain intervals. Twilight tapped her chin and magically yanked out one of the hairs, but she jumped forward with a yelp. He shot her a wincing glance. Are we done here, or do you want to shave me as well? Rarity laughed. Oh, yes. Go run along on your date. Don't let us keep you waiting. It was nice to see you again. It's not a... Forget it. Whatever. See ya. He left without another word. Twilight shook her head and started unbuckling her saddle. I don't think he likes it when you talk about him and Dash like that. It's not like it'll have any effect. Celestia knows what they'll end up doing out training. Alone, with nothing but the clouds and a little exercise to distract them from more interesting activities. Twilight cringed. You know, you act very sophisticated, but you say the dirtiest things. Rarity scoffed up the saddle and attached it to a mannequin. It's not dirty. It's romantic. It's weird, is what it is, the lavender unicorn mumbled. Rarity's expression fell. Twilight? Well, it is. What if they could... Ugh! She grunted, started pacing around. What will happen? Tell me, why are you so against this? Something will happen. It's just so weird. It doesn't seem right. I don't want to get involved with this. She turned away and started towards the stairs. Rarity watched her lowered head, almost ready to give in. Then the white unicorn blinked. This isn't about clones at all. Twilight stopped and eyed her suspiciously. What? Rarity put on her triumphant realization face. No. You're fine with the cloning pod. What happens afterwards? That has you all nervous. Twilight rubbed her forehead. Please, keep being cryptic. I obviously understand. You're shy. What do you mean by that? I think I've done well by way of making friends since I came here. Sure you have, but how many of those friends are stallions? That one hit a nerve. Twilight backed up and stepped and stammered. Plenty! Rarity seemed unconvinced. You're afraid of meeting stallions. I am not! Yes, you are. Don't give me that look. I saw how you acted when the purple-haired fellow came and stood next to you at Applejack's ceremony. You're lucky it was hot out and every pony was sweating anyway. I wasn't sweating! Sure not. She sure was sweating now. I really can't blame you, Rarity continued. He was a cute one, although his voice could get on one's nerves after a while. Twilight attempted to gather a witty retort to dismiss the accusation. Perhaps one about reading too many trashy romance novels will do, she thought. No, that would be mean. I could tell her I have some pony, can I not? Oh, I can't lie to her. Come on, Twilight, think. Her eyes darted. Her darting eyes did nothing to reinforce her credibility. Rarity's knowing smile tore deeper into her thoughts. Rarity soon had her fill of the mind game. She walked over to Twilight and led her to her self-pity couch. She looked like she could use some self-pity. Darling, tell me what got you so averse to this kind of thing. Did something happen to you in the past? No! Twilight's eyes still wouldn't meet her. I just don't have any time for relationships right now. Rarity rolled her eyes. Didn't you use the same argument in Catalant when you weren't making any friends? Twilight sighed and sagged on her haunches. That was different. I was really preoccupied with studying. With this, I just feel so nervous. I don't want to get in any complicated relationship right now. If that is the likely outcome of the clone business, I don't want any part of it. Besides, it's still weird. Something will go wrong. I can feel it. Rarity's ears fell. It seemed Twilight had some resolve left after the emotional discussion. You don't think it will be the least bit interesting to get to talk to yourself? Twilight shook her head. No, I'm sorry, but I have good friends and not do this for you. Blows her. No, I'm sorry. I have to be a good friend and not do this for you. Rarity took up her spot on the couch as Twilight got off. I suppose I shouldn't push you if you've truly made up your mind. I have. She hooked her saddlebag onto her back and stepped towards the door. I hope this doesn't come between us. Rarity smiled faintly. Of course not, dear. Twilight smiled back. Thanks. See you later. Exit Twilight Sparkle. It would have been more dramatic for Rarity to stare off into the clouds in disappointment, but the surly Pegasus fixing the windows sort of messed up the mood. Steamstruck was quite a ways away from Ponyville. The stuffed bags on Blitz's back didn't make it seem any more or less of a trek. Suck it up, he told himself. It's exercise. He figured the writer of the flyer sounded a bit too cool to live in one big snobby mansions that were found so close to Princess Celestia's castle. He flew until the houses shrank in the modest ones or two-floor before noticing a decent-sized empty circle in the moving crowd. In the center was a Pegasus with a broad brown wing and a particularly long tail. It probably would have been easier just to ask the one closest to him, but no one had ever accused Rainbow Dash's mind of executive thought. He pushed his way through the circle and tapped the shoulder of the pony in the center. Hey, do you know where I can find Strum Street? The pony turned to reveal a small yellow beak on its white head. Feathers hung over her face with purple highlights on the ends, with linings the same color of her eyes. Further examination exposed two clawed forelegs that didn't match the paws on the back. Blitz, along with many other ponies, had never met such creature. That being said, he recognized her immediately. "Oh, hey Gilda." He held up his hose for one of those greeting rituals going through his head along with an entire childhood friendship. He saw vague images of shared mischievous antics with the griffin before him. To his joy, they were accompanied by not a fainting fit, but a mild throbbing behind his eyes. Gilda appeared disturbed by seeing him. She raised an eyebrow and backed away a step. "Do I know you?" she said with suspicion. Blitz tilted his head. "Of course you know me. I'm Rainbow Blue." He stopped as a taunting voice whispered in his head. "No, she doesn't, dumbass." "Crap. This is gonna be really awkward." Blitz let out an uncomfortable laugh and moved his hose back to the back of his head. I'm a friend of Rainbow Dash." Gilda's face tightened in anger as he spoke the name, then just as quickly softened with sadness. "Oh," she mumbled, failing to completely maintain her voice level. "Yeah," Blitz continued. "She told me all about how cool you are and stuff, so I figured a cool-looking griffin on the streets was probably you." "Surprise, thy name is Gilda." "Wait, what?" "Damn it, I thought that would work. Change the subject." "So," he said, ignoring the inquiry, "how have you been? Have you been to Ponyville recently?" "No," she mumbled and stalked closer to him. "What did Dash say?" Blitz fought to maintain a calm and confident look. There was That was important when being threatened, and there was no doubt that a griffin was the predator in the situation. Meanwhile, he played the perfect part of the prey by backing slowly towards a nearby alley. Okay, maybe not the perfect prey. That was a pretty dumb move, but whatever. Nothing. Anyway, do you know where Strum Street is?" "I asked you a question," growled Gilda, the possible witnesses going further and further away. "Never mind what I said about being good prey. He kinda sucked." "My, what big claws you have. Say that. It'll be hilarious," said the voice. "Buck no," replied Blitz. He had to admit, though, she did have some pretty big claws. They glistened in the shadows of the alley. Somewhere along the lines, Blitz's eyes snapped shut, and he stumbled over a trash can. When it finished falling noisily to the ground, he decided that Gilda would most likely directly over him and about to rip him with those talons. Survival instinct overtook images, and Blitz decided to face the beast before him. "For Luna's love, don't kill me." Blitz trembled to the ground, holding his hooves over his all too vulnerable neck. After a few moments of his life flashing before his eyes, or Dash's life, whatever, he found his organs strangely intact. He chanced opening even more dilated eyes in time to see Gilda inhale deeply and mouth the digits 1 to 10. After her count, she exhaled and focused her gaze upon Blitz. She seemed sorry. I did it again. Gilda smacked herself a few times. "Sorry, dude. I've been a little angry lately. I'm trying to work on it, but you mentioned Dash and I just, She picked Blitz up off the ground. "You alright?" "Uh-huh," he rasped. "Just fine." "Are you sure?" "Yes." The response came out a bit more bitter than he wanted. Gilda winced at the tone. "What was it you were looking for?" Blitz picked up his saddlebag and had evidently fallen at some point. He considered just walking away and leaving her there to think about what she'd done. He would never have to hear from her again. She endured his cold shoulder for a minute and then turned towards the street. However, the idea of simply leaving a friend, or friend of a friend, whatever, alone didn't sit well with him. He actually almost gagged on it. Wait, he trotted over to her. Hold on, you don't have to. Nah, it's fine. I need to get over this. You don't want to spend any more time with me than you have to. Believe me, no one does. Well, you can't just walk off. What? Not without showing me how the hay you got around these Canterlock jerks showing their chin. You owe me. He flashed a grin. I need to get to Strum Street. That cheered her up. Not too much, mind you. She just wasn't all sad and emo in her makeup anymore. Deal. I was just coming from there anyway. They returned to the light, the street, and the witnesses. Oh, were you signing up for the show too? Nah, team flying isn't really my thing. I can't imagine why. I was getting tickets though. Wonderbolts are gonna be there. I know, it's gonna be awesome. They shared a moment of daydreaming over their Idas. Then Gilda turned to him. Hey, I never caught your name. Yeah, that happens when I fear for my life. I'm Rainbow Blitz. She blinked at him and frowned in thoughts. And you're a friend of Rainbow Dash? Then she glanced over at his flank. Are you two, related at all? I never really asked her about her family before. I... Blitz fumbled for the answer. He never really did get any details on clones. All he really got from Twilight was a reassurance that he was, in fact, a clone of Rainbow Dash. I'm not supposed to tell anyone, though. I don't think so? Gilda pressed her beak. Can beaks be pursed? It's just that you look a lot like her. Oh, I don't see it. Blitz glanced around the cobblestone street. And you have the same cutie mark. You think so? He tried to remain calm about it. You don't think hers is a bit different? Well, it's a lightning bolt with 3 colors. Which 3? I forget, but I'm pretty sure they're the same. I'm positive her ass doesn't look like mine. Oh, you've gotten a good look, she said with a whirly look. Well, yeah, no, never, but Blitz stammered. Gilda snickered. Relax, dude. I'm kidding, and I guess it does look a little different. It must just be the light. Yeah, breathed Blitz. The light. Sign here, and here, and here. Dash let out a frustrated sigh through her quill. Her eyebrows arched above the almost opaque glasses of the white unicorn behind the counter. She laughed and pushed the paperwork aside. All right, let's take a break from the boring part. Oh, crap. What's wrong with this? All right, let's take a break from the boring part. Dash spat out the quill. All right, this is the fun part. Lionel lifted her trademark shades from the oblique glance towards Dash. For some reason, she couldn't tell what color they were. Lionel moved away from the counter and gestured for her to follow. They made their way down the aisles of music memorabilia to a wall of the store. An array of monitors and speakers were set up along the shelves. Lionel beckoned Dash over and thrusted a pair of headphones onto Dash's head. What's this for? Dash asked, her voice resonating in her head. Well, you didn't think you were going out to perform without music, did you? That would be lame. The unicorn's voice sounded muffled, but intelligible. We've got all the good music in the computers. You can search our library by artist, name, genre, all that stuff. She magically manipulated the device on the table to demonstrate how to go about searching for all that stuff. The extensive list of Canterlot's greatest hits flew by the screen. And just click on one to listen to it. Call me when you got one. I'll hook you up. And we'll be all set. Groovy? Groovy, Dash agreed and then set about her work. Turned out that Vinyl Scratch knew what she was doing when it came to amassing music. The counter at the bottom had teleted an aggravated length of the song with numbers in upward of 300 days. Seeing that the event was in significantly less than 300 days, Dash opted for the random button and hoped for the best. First of all, Vinyl must have had the ears of a god, because the sound that boomed out the headphones was still clearly audible after Dash threw them off of herself in shock. She quietly found the volume bar and slid it over the speakers within few waves of coming out of it. Now able to listen without destroying her ears, she found that the song had been some sort of classical music. I just got blown away by some stuck-up symphony, she thought. She decided to never share that little incident and move on to something a little cooler. It's not like she couldn't look cool flying to this Philharmonic pony orchestra. She just didn't want to. The next few selections were pretty good, but Dash couldn't imagine a crowd of ponies going crazy But Dash couldn't imagine a crowd of ponies going crazy with them in the background. It needed to have energy. It needed to be almost as awesome as her, setting the bar 20% higher. The next song was heavily on the synthesizer and bass, with a steady drum beat driving it. She grinned and shut her eyes, bobbing her head in time with the music and putting together her performance piece by piece as the song played. Some ponies can do math in their head, some ponies can sew up a half-dead cart crash victim, and others can orchestrate an aerial fleet of athleticism to go with the musical accompaniment before it's done playing. Dash happened to belong to the third category. She stood by the monitors for an undeterminable amount of time. Well, she could have looked at the length of the song. She found herself so engrossed that she tried very hard to ignore her hoof poking her and the muffled voice yelling in her ear. She sighed and removed the headphones. With a flip of her mane, she turned to the party pooper. Blitz continued to yell as if his counterpart was competing. Blitz continued to yell as if he was still competing with a subwoofer. Dash, are you alive? Dash flicked a strand of his hair to get his attention and flashed a grin. I'm fine, Blitzy. How about you? Blitz rolled his eyes and straightened his wings. I thought you were signing us up for the show. We're almost done with that. But first, listen to this. Dash fixed the headphones on her clone's head and restarted the song. Within moments, he was bobbing his head and nodding approvingly. He lifted them off one by one to speak. What's this? Our background music. Come on, we gotta finish the paperwork. Yeah, sure, he said while removing the headphones. But first, there's someone that wants to talk to you. Blitz then motioned behind him. Dash glanced at that direction and then back at him. Did you hit your head or something? Well, I tripped over a garbage can. Why? Is there another bruise? No, it's just there's absolutely no pony there. Blitz frowned and followed to where he was pointing. Sure enough, there was not a pony or griffin to be found. There was, however, a shaking brown tuft of fur on the ground behind one of the aisles. Blitz sighed and walked over to the tuft. Is there a problem here? He whispered. I can't. She's probably still mad at me, Gilda replied. Blitz seemed confused. Why would she be mad at... Gilda smiled sheepishly. Well, I kind of insulted and yelled at all of her friends. Wait, what? Why? Dash's voice came from behind them. Is everything all right back there? Blitz groaned. Yeah, just a second. He turned back to Gilda. Look, I'm sure she was angry with you, but I don't think it was that big a deal. Gilda frowned at him. What makes you think that? What makes who think what? said Dash as she rounded the corner. And who are you talking? Gilda? Her eyes popped out as she saw her old friend again. Said friend quietly picked herself up and moved into a slightly more respectable stance. Her chin was held high, and her limbs were placed confidently on the floor, but her expression betrayed the nervousness she was feeling. Hey, Dash. It's been a while. Dash's face grew confident, perhaps leaning a bit towards disturbed. Yeah, I guess it has. How's Ponyville? Gilda inquired. However, it seemed a bit more like a suggestion to how to process through an encounter. Meanwhile, Blitz was experiencing being on the outside of an awkward situation for the first time. You could almost see why Rarity had liked inducting them so much. Unfortunately, he thought, I'm responsible for how this turns out. Fine, Dash replied, then regretting dismissing the subject so early without milking it for accompanying the quiet atmosphere that surrounds them. Some bits of drum beats could be heard out the nearby pony's headphones. Where have you been? You know, all over. Blitz rubbed his forehead. This was pathetic. They both had such confident demeanors, but after one fight, they turned into this. All right, time to bail them out of this. Blitz glanced over to their faces, both of which were pointed away anywhere but each other. He extended his wings out to them. The girls were met with a light brush of feathers to the face, following the twitching and coughs cut the tension not quite as well as a knife, but desperate times, etc. Well, Blitz began, if we're all done stalling, how about we get to what's on our minds? Gilda, you wanted to share something? You are... He drew out his last words, tilting his head to indicate a query. Oh, yeah, She closed her eyes and made a look comparable to that of a convict under the guillotine. What was it? Blitz held up a hoof to his ear. This earned him a prominent withering glance before Gilda returned to her epic battle against pride. She started to rush towards blood started to rush towards the griffin's head. A vein could be seen pulsing under her feathers. Then she suddenly let out a deep breath and hung her head. I'm a stupid jerk. Well now, most ponies were unaccustomed to this side of the griffin, but her best friend was amongst them. For a moment, her ego actually shrunk before Genosynchry's point of orbit above Equestria. Dash was awestruck. Blitz, meanwhile, shook his head. Well, I would have said sorry, but whatever. He turned to his double, who seemed to have spaced out. With a roll of his eyes, he nudged her and gestured towards Gilda, with a look that said, She's bucking sorry. What do you say back? She blinked. Oh, right. It's fun. No, it isn't, Gilda interrupted. I'm no better than those jackasses we used to make fun of in flight school. Blitz's eyes twitched. Jackasses. Flight school. Got it. Ow. That one hurts a little bit. Come on. You are so... Look. Maybe I pushed you a little too far at the party. Ah, crap. Messed up. Okay. Come on. You were so... Look, maybe I pushed you a little too far at that party. I should have known better than to screw with you too much. Gilda looked up at her doubtfully. Dash smiled. Really? It's cool. Gilda smiled back and bumped hooves/claws. Thanks. Yo, Dash, echoed Vinyl's voice from elsewhere in the store. You done yet? Yeah. We're gonna use song number 1, 3... gonna use song number 1352. 1352, 1352. Ah! There it is. Ooh, nice one. And is your partner here yet? I need them to sign stuff. Dash nodded her head over to the direction of the voice. That would be you, Blitz. Coming, he said and cantered over to the aisles, leaving Dash and Gilda without their mediator. So, Gilda drawled, you two, what's happening there? What do you mean? The Pegasus replied, still looking where Blitz had left. Come on, Blitzy, really? A more cautious Griffin would have waited a bit more or after conflict to begin teasing again. This probably wouldn't have blown up at the group of ponies throwing a party at him either. That doesn't mean anything, Dash shot back. He calls me Dashy sometimes too. It's just something we do. Gilda sneered. That's so cheesy. Do you guys share milkshakes with 2 straws too? It's not like that, Dash protested. She was looking a little redder than she would have liked. Are you sure? Gilda asked. 'Cause you were kind of giving him the eye back there. Mild horror plastered Dash's face. Was I? Wait, how long were you there? Don't change the subject. Are you two a thing or what? Yes, relationship teasing is immature, but it's also fun. Well, he sort of lives with me, but... Oh my gosh, he lives with you? I bet you snuggle too. Dash looked away. In hindsight, probably the wrong move. No way. You totally do. That's hilarious. Shut up. It's usually an accident anyway. The Griffin began to say something again, but Dash's eyes told her that would not be good for her health. Gilda made a reassuring gesture. Whatever, dude. You know I'm kidding. Besides, it's not like he's lame or anything. You could have done worse. Dash growled. I forgot what a pain in the flank you could be. It's a gift, Gilda said with a strong. Anyway, that reminds me. Can I see your cutie mark for a second? Once you're done here, you can sign here, here, here. Ugh, what's with all this paperwork? Blitz groaned before continuing to fill out his waiver. Hey, I don't like it any more than you do. If it was up to me, I'd let Pony sign up at the door. But no, I need all this stuff so I'm not responsible if anyone gets hurt. Because it's totally my fault if some stupid Pegasus goes and gets themselves injured on a cloud. What would that even... How would that even happen? Final shook her head. It seemed to her that life would be so much easier without all the bull. Yeah, I understand. Blitz scribbled in his signature and nudged to the stack of paper on Vinyl's counter. Are we good now? The white unicorn adjusted her glasses. They probably weren't even reading glasses. And examined the paperwork. At one point, she frowned and peered over all of them. In the relationship with partner area, you wrote friends. Blitz tilted his head. Yeah, why? Should I have written roommate or something? Well, you could have, but aren't you two, related? Blitz frowned back. I don't think so. Ronald looked over him. Are you sure? I'm pretty sure. Why? She let out a relieved breath. Well, it makes things a little bit weird. Well, it makes things a bit less weird. Now I have some new thoughts on your little trip you're going on after this. Wait, what? Blitz replied with the average male, I didn't get it face. Let's just say I can hear everything everypony says in the store. The face remained, but I didn't say anything. Bono sighed amusingly. Alright, we'll take this nice and slow for you. Are you two together? Together for what? Are you dating? Well, the face was gone. In his place was Blitz's scowl and a blush as he realized where this conversation was going. No, he responded with a small amount of ire. Mano stepped back. Settle down, dude. It was just a question. He let out a breath, taking an edge off his glower. Sorry. It's just every pony keeps saying stuff like that. And to our faces, too. It's embarrassing. Mano gave him an understanding nod. That sucks. I had a situation like that myself. Blitz gave a grunt of acknowledgement. So, have you two screwed yet? The Pegasus appeared stunned for a moment before proceeding to attempt to shake his head off his shoulders. No, I wouldn't, it's not. I guess that's a no, Venom chuckled. But I can tell you've thought about it. You're annoying and unoriginal, Blitz practically sneered. Oh, come on, she exclaimed, still smiling. Guys are normally more eager to talk about this kind of stuff. Well, I'm not, Blitz huffed, tucking his wings back to his side. They had unfurled for some reason. Lionel eased up on the teasing look. And you don't think it'll be a little awkward being alone with her for several days if you can't even joke about it? His anger fought valiantly to hold the line right before deflating into somewhat more helpless as Blitz's chin fell to the counter. I have no idea what will happen. I don't even know what I want to happen. Bino's horn lit up as Blitz's head was lifted off his paperwork. Come on. You'll screw up if you think like that. Or think at all, for that matter. Everything will work out fine if it do what feels right. How did it go with you? Blitz asked, not quite cheering up. The DJ flashed a wolfish grin. Now I'm going out with my sexy roommate. With that, Blitz turned his red face around and began walking away. Just tell me if you want to add with benefits to your file, alright? The insurance won't cover the clap otherwise. She laughed up until a thrown pair of headphones lodged themselves in her mouth. For the record, that was the second time Blitz was putting something in a mare's mouth. You know, in case you were counting. Said Pegasus examined himself in the backside of a small disc he had found in the aisle, to be sure he wasn't presentable. Said Pegasus examined himself in the back of a small disc he found on an aisle to be sure he was presentable. It would not have sat right with him to return a dash with anything less than complete confidence and composure. Not that he needed to have any sort of impression on her or anything. That would be ridiculous. This was rendering redundant, however, when he happened upon a griffin scrutinizing the flank of a Pegasus. She was mouthing red, yellow, blue repeatedly. What are you looking for, Gilda? She laughed. A pot of gold? Oh, crap. What are you looking for there, Gilda? He laughed. A pot of gold? I told you it was weird, Dash groaned. Protests were met with a waving claw. Yeah, keep whining. Get over here and stand next to her. What? Do you want me to help you look? Gilda rolled her eyes. No, but I know how much you'd like to. But gulped as he concentrated on talking no more than one glance at Dash's flank. Suddenly, he didn't need anyone poking near his back half. Dash, shouldn't we be... Oh, just do it or she won't shut up. The stallion reluctantly complied and stood next to the mare. The sensation of knowing someone was behind him and examining him was very uncomfortable. The three received an odd look by passing customers. "Are you almost done back there?" Blitz said impatiently. "It would be a lot easier to compare you two if you weren't flicking your tails all over each other. We're in public. Sheesh." "I'm not," the pair said as one. Whatever. She gave Dash's rump a slight push right onto her clones. She let out an undignified yelp. She toppled onto Blitz, who not only recuperated her response, but also collapsed on the floor. "Sorry," Gilda thought, snickering. "I slipped." Dash stared daggers at her old friends from a pile of Sion pony. Blitz, on the other hand, had to focus a little more on ignoring the sensation of rubbing up against a mare. He settled on facing his head in no particular direction while maintaining a generally displeased look. "Well, did you find what was so important to you?" Dash said to Gilda as she clambered off of her clone. "Huh? Oh yeah, you two have the same cutie mark. It's a lot less interesting now that I know it for sure." Blitz sighed and stood up. It's nice to know that we were cleared that up for you." Gilda gave him a grin before turning back to Dash. "What I really want to know is where you found some pony that looks and acts exactly like you." The Pegasus shared a nervous glance and kept quiet. However, the already calm atmosphere of the scarcely populated store made the prolonged lull in the conversation intolerable. Dash scratched her throat. "Oh yeah, that's a funny story. Why don't you tell her, Blitz?" Blitz gave a brief scowl, returning his attention to the topic at hoof. "Why don't you? I always screw it up when I try to tell it." "Really, I think you should." "But your side is so much more interesting, so tell the story from my side." "That's stupid." "You're stupid." "Guys," Gilda interjected, "it's fine. If it's too embarrassing or mushy to tell me here, you don't have to." "It's not mushy," they yelled together. Gilda rolled her eyes. "Mushy, X-rated, whatever." Dash hung her head. "Pain, flank, you." "Come on, Dash," Blitz said, walking towards the door. "We gotta go before she wants to check our tongues or something." "Yeah, I'm coming," she said back. After a few steps, Gilda called out behind her. "Hey, Dash." Dash turned back to see her fillyhood friend. The griffin opened her mouth to speak, then she paused and shook her head. "I'll see you there." The normally casual farewell expressed desire to meet up with one later came out as more of a question than a statement. Her usual confident voice shook with uncertainty. Dash caught the significance of her tone and finally absorbed what had happened between them just then. She hadn't usually been one to make friends of her enemies. Her nature didn't sit well with malicious behavior. If one was always to stand by their friends, then one was to always stand against their adversaries. It had served her well in the past. But that was no way to act. The prospect of regaining a friend was too great. There were plenty of times she had forgiven her. There were plenty of times she had been forgiven for her behavior, and it was time to reciprocate. One nice pause later, Dash gave her friend a grin. "Sure, see ya." Then she hurried off to catch her clone as they walked out the door. It seemed odd to fully point at. I'm so sorry. This chapter's in this. It seemed odd to fully point to. It seemed odd to fully put an end on such a conflict with 3 words, but Dash knew that it was all she needed to say. They took off towards the peak that dominated the sky. Blitz trailed behind with a saddlebag full of supplies. Gilda glanced up at them upon exiting the shop before continuing to prowl through the Canterlot streets. This time, the crowd only felt the need to give her a small berth. Alright, that is the end of this chapter. I'm terribly sorry for messing up so much. Um, this chapter really got me. Till next time. Bye.